In 2016, I was actually getting bored of my corporate life, and I thought I wanted to do something else. I grew up understanding how real estate projects were made. Half of Gurgaon was made in front of me. Then, very interestingly, I started following Airbnb, reading about Airbnb, and one day I applied for a job at Airbnb.
Wow.
There was the longest client who stayed with us was a Japanese guy who stayed with us for about a year and a half in our own apartment.
With you?
With us. So it was
Okay.
me, my wife, and the Japanese guy. August 16th, 2017 was when the company was made.
Okay.
It had only 4 properties, 5 properties.
Yeah.
So there are some places where we don't have washing machines. Why we don't have washing machines is because we don't have water. In Uttarakhand, this is the biggest problem. What will you do with a washing machine when you don't have water supply? Everything is measurable based on how much input you bring into the table.
Instagram पे अगर आप जाओगे ना तो इंटरनेशनल बड़ा एक रील है जो कि बहुत वायरल होता है दैट एयरबीएनबी शुरू करके लोग बिलियंस कमा रहे हैं. Is that true for India as well?
No, it is not.
Okay.
It is not. If we are able to bring in that right kind of quality and that right kind of customer satisfaction, that sector will keep on scaling up. However, I feel where there is competition, there is a scope to learn. There is a scope to understand.
Safety and security, कोई incidents कभी ऐसा हुआ that something has gone completely wrong in any of your apartment?
There are things that can go wrong, and every time a thing goes wrong,
In today's episode of Connecting the Dots, I am with Akshay Seth, the founder of Hosty. He is into the business of alternating lodging, like service apartment, farmhouses, holiday homes. This is the different kind of hospitality segment, and we will today deep dive into this business area of hospitality and understand from him ये business कैसे चलते हैं, कैसे manage होते हैं, और किस तरह की problems in business में आती है. So let's understand from him. Hi Akshay.
Hi.
How are you?
Prashant. Very well.
How are you doing?
Very well, Prashant.
So Akshay, I think for this podcast format is that we have done these podcasts with a lot of hospitality professionals and entrepreneur in hospitality.
Okay.
Like you are one who is doing business in this industry. I want to know how it all started. Let's take a time to understand your life first. ये करने से पहले क्या कर रहे थे आप?
So, I'm a software engineer.
Oh.
I think you are a software engineer as well. So we both come from the same background in that sense. But I did not pursue my career in after doing my software engineering. I did not pursue a career in that because I felt I wanted to do something new. So I was more like a people's person. So I thought, real estate would be a line for me, and real estate was a booming market or industry at that point in time. In 2005, I'm talking about, it was like coming up back again after the slump.
Yeah.
So I did my software engineering from US, came back to India, and got into real estate because my father was from real estate. So I had seen.
So you had a family business of a real estate?
I did not have a family business. My father was working for a big real estate developer. He was heading them. So I got an opportunity to. I grew up understanding how real estate projects were made. Half of Gurgaon was made in front of me. My father was involved with that.
That is back 2005 and 6.
Yeah, my father. So Ansal Plaza, Delhi, was made by my dad. I mean, he was at that time heading Ansals as a managing director. So I got back to India and I felt that there was an opportunity in this. So I then worked in real estate for a bit, and I started a venture in real estate to do developments.
So you started a business in
real estate to do developments along with my father. That time.
This was in the year?
This was in the year 2007. Yeah, that was with my father. It was not my own. It was more like my father resigned from the previous job, and then he started a business venture which was into development of real estate. I joined him. I started understanding how real estate is, how grassroots real estate works, how do you acquire lands, how do you build, how do you plan, how do you project, how do you develop a business plan, what all goes into that. Those were my training years. Then 2009, there was a Lehman bust that came in, and real estate got affected quite a bit. So at that point in time, my father decided that he did not want to pursue the real estate thing that much. So he kind of closed down the company, made it a investment vehicle just to invest into assets and keep it like that, not to do hardcore development. I, on the other hand, joined a management company because I had gained so much of experience in real estate. and I knew about how real estate is planned, how real estate projects are planned, how they are developed, how they are, what goes behind it. Then I joined a company called Gold Soup, which was into developing malls, shopping malls. They were looking at a diversification strategy. They wanted to get into other asset classes like residential projects, and they wanted to move into other cities. Like they were currently in Gurgaon, Delhi. They wanted to move into other cities, so Chennai, Kochi, Ludhiana. So I joined them. There was a very long 5-year association with them, which was like an experience gaining time for me, and working pan India.
जितना आपने सीखा था,
Everything was given there. So it was a great journey that time, and that company after that, in 2016. I was actually getting bored of my corporate life, and I thought I wanted to do something else. So that's when, and that time the real estate market had tanked. It was getting on a slower side. Gurgaon was on a standstill.
Correct.
Things were not moving ahead. So it was not that projects were like rolling the way they should have been. It was a standstill, and when businesses feel that stagnation, there's pressure on the business. There's all kind of things that happen. That's when I thought that I want to do something new. I just quit my job
just randomly. Okay.
And my wife asked me that, are you crazy? You're just quitting your job. How are we going to manage? What are you going to do? So I said, I'm going to take a sabbatical, think what I want to do.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
then get into something new that I would want to pursue.
Okay.
And in 2015, a year before that, I had actually traveled to Thailand, and I first time stayed on an Airbnb villa in Phuket.
Okay.
So that was like something very interesting that, in Koh Samui actually, that how these villas work in Thailand, because Airbnb was quite new in India at that point in time in 2015 and 16. Then very interestingly, I started following Airbnb, reading about Airbnb, and one day I applied for a job at Airbnb.
Wow.
And the opening was for head of business development, North and East. Applied for that. I think I went through 7-8 rounds of interviews with them, various rounds of interviews, and then I think that that profile was not hired at that point in time.
Okay.
So I was like kind of disappointed that I am from real estate. I could have
Why
really
I'm not getting the job.
I could have I could have really helped them build supply in that kind of a thing. But that was a very different. It's a company which is more into the marketplace model.
Correct.
So that was not that they had to manage or they had to do.
Correct.
While going through all that exercise, I thought, let me try and host.
Oh.
So the first thing I did was I put up a room in my apartment on Airbnb and trying to understand what exactly is hospitality.
Okay.
And it is in this complex itself where we are sitting today that I put my first guest was invited.
Okay.
And so it was a very interesting journey because I did not know anything about hospitality. All I knew was, yes, of course, like in terms of technically, I did not know anything about hospitality. I knew how to make people happy. That was the idea about it. So I got my first booking from my first guest who was coming from New York. There was a couple, and I remember their flight arrival was around 8 at 9 or 10 in the night. And I went there to pick them up. I told my wife.
You went there by yourself?
Yeah, I went there myself. I did not have anyone, so I went there myself. It was not a company at that point in time. It was like, starting something new.
Okay.
The flight was delayed by 3 hours. I was standing with a placard at the airport. It was very interesting. I called up my wife that, I'm going to get late. I think they arrived at about 2:30 in the morning. Then we drove back. We came to our house, and my wife woke up. She opened the door. So it was going to be, she was earlier very scared that, you're going to have people in our house.
Complete stranger.
You're not worried about my safety and, security. I said, let's go through this. Let's understand. It's a very interesting journey. That's how it all started. She made breakfast for them, did all that. And then that was the first client, and we became great friends. And that's when the hosting thing actually started. And then, every time we used to make our listing. I mean, every time we had our listing, we used to get an inquiry. We used to be very, very happy that someone new is going to come in. Very interestingly, that after that, we hosted a lot of people. There was the longest client who stayed with us was a Japanese guy who stayed with us for about a year and a half in our own apartment.
With you?
With us. So it was me, my wife, and the Japanese guy staying with us for a year and a half. All happened through the Airbnb concept. While doing all this, in 2017, I came up with the thought process that I want to pursue hosting as a proper career and build a company around solving the problems that hosts face.
Got it.
So while doing that, Hosty came into mind that I want to develop my company by the name of Hosty, which is all about hosting. And our first thought process went that what kind of properties should we acquire? What is the kind of properties we should be looking at? What is it that the guests would want? So I started exploring the second home market, which was, because I'm from real estate, I knew that, a lot of people invest into second homes and into third homes, into fourth homes. So I started exploring the second home market because second homes are usually places where people do or make for themselves. However, they don't usually get to live in them.
Correct.
They go there once in a while.
Yeah, maybe a weekend or a holiday.
And so around Delhi, there are farmhouses around, and then there's Uttarakhand where there are mountain homes. People rarely go into that. So that's where the concept came. That's where I thought that, I want to do something on that lines. And I knew that second homes normally become dump yards. What people do is, they put up their old furniture, ghar se khali hua, idhar bhej dete.
Correct.
So that's the kind of a concept that becomes, but that's not hospitality friendly.
Correct.
Right? Because that's now not the way a guest would be hosted. So it was a bit of a challenge to, kind of be able to convince the owners or make them understand that, purana saman nahi, naya saman rakhna hota hai ghar ke andar. We need to bring it to that level. Also, the second homes, get dilapidated over time if they're not used.
Because no maintenance, no one is looking after them.
No one is looking after them. एक caretaker है, कभी आ जाएगा, कभी हफ्ते में एक बारी cleaning हो जाएगी. So the house eventually over a period of time will go.
Correct.
So that's where, I thought that, that this is a market that I need to focus. This is something that, I want to build on, give them solutions, get them people, maintain their properties, make them happy. And, in turn, we become a business company.
So this is how Hosty started.
This is how Hosty started.
So let's come back to the your story again. So जब आप Hosty शुरू कर रहे थे, जब आपको लगा कि यार this is the calling for me, ये business शुरू करना है, आपको क्या लगा था ये business कितना बड़ा होगा, मतलब क्यों शुरू करना चाहिए? Because hosting चल रही थी आपकी, आपने अपने घर में लोगों को host किया and एक दो अपार्टमेंट आप और ले रहे थे. कंपनी बनाने का ख्याल कब आया कि यार नहीं इसको बड़ा करते हैं, स्केल करते हैं, कंपनी बनाते हैं? वो कब आना शुरू हुआ?
So 2016 to 2017, a year, I took 2, 3, 4 apartments and we were concentrating on the apartments. We were doing the hosting. Now hosting is okay, you get the revenue that you want. Correct. It can, generate the kind of revenue that.
And it's also flexible. You can switch off and say that I don't want to host now.
Correct.
Or maybe.
Yeah. Correct. So we can do that. And agar aapne, so first property I had taken on lease. I took a property and I knew that itna lease rent nikalna hai, ye lease rent nikal jayega to uske baad fine, everything is profit. Right? Uske baad jo aapki cost nikal gayi to everything is profit. However, in 2017, after a year, when I felt that, there is so much scope, there's so much of a market that exists. People are not. So I felt that people would want to get into this kind of a setup. They would want a more private space. They would want a more homely feeling when they travel.
Okay.
And especially we started aiming at places which were like not commercial centers. Okay. Our idea was not, we don't want to aim at commercial centers. So I started studying places which are not commercial centers, which are unexplored places. Okay. And that's when the thought process came that we need to develop a company to be able to, get to those places, set up systems, get to those properties. And we did not want to do, the mainline cities in terms of experience travel.
Okay.
Then came COVID. So 2017, August 16th, 2017 was when the company was made. Okay. It had only 4 properties, 5 properties, because the ones which I was managing transferred to the company.
Correct.
Then we started acquiring one or two more. That's when, and then came 2 years went by. We were at about 22 properties. We were doing pretty focused work.
22 property.
Yes. So these are like 22 villas and
No, understood. But
yeah.
these are the 22 units.
22 units. So we had properties in Delhi, we had properties in Gurgaon, and we had properties in Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand we started in 2018 and 2019 actually. Then came COVID, 2020. It was like for a new business person, it was like, disaster. What will happen? What will we do? How will... 2 साल उसमें चले गए, but I think it was in a blessing in disguise for the alternative accommodation segment, because people were not willing to go to hotels.
Yeah.
And first 5-6 months, we were very scared. We dismantled the team. We didn't know how we could sustain. So that was the first 6 months were very, very scary. After 6 months, then surprisingly, when COVID was going on, COVID was like lockdown, first lockdown happened, then the second lockdown happened. Very interestingly, all our apartments were full.
Yeah, people left their home to be there.
No, so there were so many people who were stuck
okay.
in the city. They could not go back to their countries. The countries had closed down borders.
Yeah.
They wanted good spaces to live. First lockdown was like, unknown thing. People did not expect a lockdown to happen. Yeah. Second lockdown was like more like it was people were aware that this is going to come in.
Correct.
So then we started understanding people, then the work from home culture came in. Yeah. People were escaping out of city. Delhi was like, going crazy with COVID during the COVID time. So people were like, I want to be in a remote village in Uttarakhand.
Yeah.
I can work from there. I can take my family, go there.
Staycation word भी वहाँ पे काफी popular हुआ था.
काफी popular हुआ था. So that is how. So from at that point in time, so COVID, post COVID, that those times, actually people traveled to these places. We had people staying in all our properties.
You made good business in COVID.
Yes, that was interesting.
Okay.
And in fact, I think the best years were the year after COVID, 1 year after COVID. Uske baad se it started going down because, offices were closed.
Yeah.
Everyone was working from home.
Yes.
People were working from places where they could just make themselves comfortable, live there, work from there, do all those things. I remember in the second lockdown, there was a company, we have a building block, we have 12 rooms in that. It's a 6 2 BHK units. Company moved all its employees to that place and started working from that. It was like a work from home setup.
Correct.
So very interesting formats developed. Then when the post-COVID thing happened, then we started focusing on developing newer sectors. So we worked on Himachal. Himachal, we started with 5 properties. It was started in 2022.
Okay.
And so we've been, slowly progressing on how we want to add properties. Setting up a new sector becomes a little bit of a...
Because then all logistic and everything has to move.
Yes.
So I'm curious to understand how this business works, because India में अभी service apartments या फिर villa concept and ये बहुत ज़्यादा popular होता जा रहा है. In fact, when I travel with team, with all of them, I prefer to stay in service apartment because it becomes convenient for us to do a meeting. So
correct.
With all the light, cameras and people, if you have 3 rooms, आपको meeting करनी है, आप किसी के room में नहीं बैठ सकते because you have 5 people, 6 people. But when you take a 2 BHK apartment, 3 BHK apartment, you get a living room. So this concept, this use scenario is already present. So एक आपने बताया staycation, लोग remote area में जाके रह सकते हैं, और एक commercial use भी है इसका.
Correct.
So if I'm traveling with my team 4-5 people, I will not prefer a hotel because then after a day, if you want to do an evening meeting, there is no place. Either you go to a bar or restaurant, but if you want to have a quiet place, you can sit down and have a business meeting, can't do it. So all of this concept is already there. How to make a business out of it, you have cracked down. And I think how many properties that you have currently?
We have about 44 properties.
44.
Yeah.
And these are 44 units.
44 units, yes.
So 44 units को लाने में आपको total time कितना लगा?
See, so it's been a long journey acquiring a project.
No, I'm asking about post-COVID. So
post-COVID, so we usually bring in about 5-6 units in a year. We've been a little, we've been more focused. Our unit top gestation time, like how much time it takes to develop a unit, takes about 4 to 5 months, because we want to, bring it to that level, how it needs to be, brought down to that level. So it took us this much time to build in the format, and today we are at about 44. By the next month, we'll be crossing our 50 mark.
Tell me more about Hosty. What are the concepts that you work in? आप कैसे acquire करते हो? What are the parameters that you look at when you want to acquire a property? Take it on lease, आप lease पे लेते हो, management contract लेते हो, revenue share लेते हो. How does Hosty operate? I want to understand the business from the owner. So tell me, what is Hosty all about? How's your team and you work together to make this a business and make profit?
See, Hosty is a very young team. It consists of people who are very, very, passionate about everything they do. So when we acquire a property, every house has to be, it sings a story, or it says a story. Every house has a particular dimension.
Correct.
Now, so it's a character of a owner who's invested into that house, because these are second homes. These are not third homes. These are not primarily bare shell apartments which are left for renting. These are homes which are actually made. So these are they all of them talk a story. When we have to acquire, we understand what is the story behind it. Not every owner will be able to take the story out to the customer.
Correct.
Right. So that's where we come in. To bring it to that level, to be able to take that story out to a customer, to be able to to be able to make sure that that customer experiences that in that property, to have an eventual good stay, comfortable stay. That's what is the model behind Hosty. And we do revenue share formats. So if you so I'll give you an example. So we have a property called Chinar Haveli.
Okay.
Chinar Haveli is a very interesting property. It's owned by a very famous photographer.
Okay.
And the property, if you walk in there, it talks. I mean, every corner of it is beautifully designed to be able to get that photographic angles. It's in Gurgaon. And however, that property, for a person to understand, needs to be able to, so that story needs to go to that particular clientele. We have another property called Tapovan. Tapovan is another farmhouse. So every farmhouse has a different character. Every home has a different character. We have a beautiful property called Chirping Chidiya, which is in Hartola. Now, Hartola is a small village people don't know of. It's in Uttarakhand.
Okay.
People know of more prominent places in Uttarakhand. Like, Nainital people will know of, Mussoorie people will know of, Dehradun people will know of. But people will not know of these places.
Correct.
And that is where we go. That is where if a person is building a second home, he's wanting to be in a peaceful, nicer place. That's where Hosty comes in. These are homes which have been built. These are homes which have got that character. These are homes which just need that proper polishing. And it needs a setup which is a professional setup, who can look after the nuances of the property, who can understand, who can take that story out, bring it to the people, do the marketing, take care of the issues related to hospitality, because none of these owners have built their property for
hosting.
For hosting. So that's all the things that we do in Hosty. We have our people who look after the entire property throughout the contract duration.
So once you finalize a property, okay, this is the property that you, so उसके बाद उसमें क्या चीजें as a Hosty, as a company that you put in terms of that it should be okay for any guest to come in and stay. So like if I'm a South Indian guy, I made an apartment or probably I have a bungalow, it will be through my head that I've created a.
Correct.
So I might like a pink color ka sofa.
Correct.
And you might say that it is not right, or maybe you take it as okay, this is a story of a house, but there has to be few elements looking at. There will be a complete stranger going to come in, and he's going to use this house, stay here, use the kitchen, laundry, and all of those things, and there will be X amount of things that guests should have it. So, for example, power cut to know that if you can get a Swiggy Zomato order, to know that if you get a food there, to know if you have a grocery setup there. What are the things that you put into apartment or any property that becomes Hosty property and people can come and stay.
So Prashant, I'll explain this. So when we go to places which are like, so all these places, all the work which goes behind, in terms of aesthetics, there's a different concept because every person makes a house as per their choice.
Correct.
Right. Now, if a person puts in a pink sofa, it's his choice.
Correct.
How can we enhance that pink sofa?
Yeah.
Being a pink sofa is what we bring in about that. Okay, maybe we want to do something that enhances that look. If we can't, if we don't want to completely change it, because then the owner is feeling that my thing is being changed. Our homes are usually visited by owners themselves. They are used by owners themselves. So we don't want to change the aesthetic of a house, but we want to add to that aesthetic of a house. Maybe we feel that something, some artwork. Maybe we feel some props. Maybe we feel some items which will bring up that character to the property, which is synonymous to the design of the property.
Understood.
It enhances it. So we bring those kind of things in. Then comes the part of hospitality, which is like, the functionality. So in terms of functionality, there is linen, there's what kind of linen, there's a standardized format that we follow in terms of linen. So that is all brought in by us. What should be the number of pillows that should be used for. It's a very simple example, like, a person can have just 2 pillows. I mean, why is there a need of 4 pillows? No one sleeps on 2 pillows. But it is just a character that
that's a hospitality character
that you have to put in. Now, whether something will look nice or something will not look nice, and then comes the functionality in terms of what are the appliances that a person would require in terms of for using at that particular place. Now, for example, if there is a property in Hartola, now there are some places we have. So if you follow a standardized list, okay, no, there is this washing machine should be everywhere, this should be everywhere. It doesn't go like that. So there are some places where we don't have washing machines. Why we don't have washing machines is because we don't have water. In Uttarakhand, this is the biggest problem. What will you do with a washing machine when you don't have water supply?
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's a big challenge. But then to bridge that challenge, if there's no water, there's less water, there's no washing machine, you need to identify the laundry setup, where your laundry will go, how your laundry will work, how will it work for your guest.
Correct.
Right? So all those things, the functionality bit comes in, planning the property, where then comes what kind of meals. So meals are very different. These are not places where you can have chefs all the time. It's not easy to put in a butler at every property. And our properties are not of that thought process. They're of a home character.
And bit of privacy also.
Bit of privacy as well. So they have that home character. So what kind of food should be done? What is that what is it that we can bring to the customer in that thought process? That's the kind of activities we do. Whether it should be outsourced, whether it should be linked to a particular company or something. So those are so if you give the customer everything on a platter, that these are the choices, these are the recommendations, these are the places we would recommend you to get the food from, then you've stitched the whole thing. So all that thing is done by our team. So Hosty does that. And then comes, the training of the caretaker, management of the property on a day-to-day basis. There's so much that goes in a house. Every day there will be a geyser going bad, there is a tap going, these things. Correct. There's regular repair and maintenance, termite lag gayi, something the other. These are things that will keep on happening, and it happens in our homes. It happens everywhere. It happens in hotels. It happens everywhere. These are things that this is the regular maintenance that keeps on happening at the property. These are all. So this is what all the work that Hosty keeps doing. And the owners are relieved, because if you are an owner and you have a caretaker at a property, and every day you will get a phone, ma'am, aaj pani khatam ho gaya, aaj yahan nahi ho raha, aaj ye nahi ho raha. So it's more of a hassle to maintain a second home.
Correct.
Right. Now we bring in a solution where it's zero hassle. Its cost also is getting mitigated because of the revenue that it generates.
Correct.
Right. So then instead of, why not share your property with people? So this is what the concept, and this is how Hosty came into existence.
Owner को profit होता है?
Owner की yield return उतनी आ जाती है जितना उनको मतलब rental yield plus हो जाती है. So see, बहुत ज़्यादा commercial prospects नहीं होने चाहिए.
Correct, because it's a home.
It's a home.
Yeah.
Right. there are a lot of people who feel कि oh my god 3x हो जाएगा 4x हो जाएगा, ऐसे नहीं होता है. An average yield on a residential product is 2.5 to 3%. This is the principle of real estate.
Correct.
In a tier 2, tier 3 city, that 2.5% is also 1.5%.
And when we are talking about the remoteness of the area,
वहाँ तो कुछ है ही.
हाँ, वहाँ तो आपकी देखभाल कर रहे हैं प्रॉपर्टी के, वही बड़ा.
वही बहुत बड़ी बात है, right? So this is where what is important. There is a team looking after that property with full interest.
With more interest than you might have.
Yeah. So that's the concept. And to be able to generate a yield that is better than the yield which you will get over there. So that's the concept. Now, if you market it, if you think about it, that we don't go to anyone and say, we can't say, oh my God, we'll get you 3 lakh rupees rent. That is not a feasible format.
Correct.
Because then it becomes a commercial venture. Then it's not the interest in the property. Then it's more like, okay, how much is the business thing? I've seen so many ads that keep popping. 18% ROI, 15% ROI. I don't understand. I mean, being a real estate person all my life, seeing products, designing products, not only capital appreciation brings that kind of value, not, a yield.
Yeah.
A commercial product yields a return of about 5 to 6%. That's the standard yield format.
Yeah.
And a residential product yields a return of about 2.5 to 3%. So anything you can do in between, brilliant. Even if you don't do it in between, even if you're able to match up and your property is maintained the way you want it to be, that's excellent.
So there are two satisfaction levels that you have to manage. One is owner satisfaction, other one is guest satisfaction.
Correct.
So owner satisfaction maximum time तक मिल जाता होगा आपको, because now like we said, इतना yield मिलना चाहिए, इतना मेरे ख्याल से आप रिसर्च करके जाते होगे कि यार ये प्रॉपर्टी ले रहे हैं इतना होगा. And वहाँ पे guest satisfaction कैसे manage करते हो आप? What are the problems that you face?
So guest satisfaction, now that's where Hosty comes in primarily. So guest satisfaction, there are 2-3 levels that you need to do. One is the base, that the stay should be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So that is pertinently important. How is our stay going to go through? Then comes, उसमें सारा आपका वो आ जाता है, the quality, the housekeeping, the maintenance levels, the maintainability, the issues in the property. So that comes in basic stay format. Then comes the pampering, I would say. So, see, अगर आप खुद एक ओनर हो या आप कहीं भी जा रहे हो, अगर आपसे कोई फोन करके पूछ रहा है कि आपके लिए खाने में क्या बनवा के रखूं,
करेक्ट,
आप कब पहुंचोगे, आपको मैं आपके लिए क्या प्लान करके रखूं, those are the things that give that welcoming feeling to a customer.
There is someone who is going to be there to take care of you.
Yes. Yeah. When are you reaching? Where have you reached? Someone is checking on you. Someone's telling you. Someone's making sure that आपके लिए सब कुछ arranged है. आपको कोई चीज के लिए problem नहीं हो रही. So that's the level of comfort that a guest should get. And that's what we kind of guarantee for our guests. That's what we bring to the table. That's the reason why our guests are love to be, as a part of it. In fact, when we started Himachal, our guests used to say, people who've stayed in Uttarakhand used to say that you don't have properties in Himachal, so we started properties in Himachal. So it's a lot of repeat and referral customer, because if you are able to hit the spot with a customer that, okay, we are there to take care of you, then that customer satisfaction will definitely come.
I'm a repeat Hosty customer.
I know, you are.
Yeah, so one more thing about service apartment or maybe first home of the people, they tend to be there. So जब वो आते हैं रहते हैं, so उतने दिन का जो आपका loss है, probably suppose this is a high demand property. I'm talking about this property. An owner comes and stay here for 1 month. That 1 month, what do you do with that demand? How do you manage that?
So देखिए, जब हम property acquisition करते हैं, so we understand what is the requirement. So for example, a high demand property, like ये property है, which we are like, it's a service apartment. It's a high demand property. It will run at an average occupancy of about 85% throughout the year, right? Now, in that case, when the owner has to use it for 1 or 2 months, of course, there's a revenue hit that happens. Yes. So the plan is designed in a way that the percentage ratio is designed in a way that it is predetermined. That, okay, I'll be coming here and I'll be staying for so many days. This is the revenue share ratio. So it's a customizable thing. Then comes costs during that time. So costs are definitely borne by the owner at that point in time, because the owner has to take care of those costs. We can't bring in those costs because the owner is staying at that duration. In our experiential properties, the occupancies are never that high. Most of our owners try to use it when the see, everyone likes money, right? So money is the most important thing.
Motivation in the world.
Yes. So if there is a property in say Uttarakhand, May and June, I feel, you know, the owners don't travel during that time. They prefer to be, okay, we'll go in July when the season turns down. Monsoons, people will not travel. They are scared, even though it's a beautiful time to be in the mountains. But so owners use, you know, typically those times. So they get to stay in their own property. They get to use it as much as they want, because those properties do not have an occupancy life of that kind of a value.
Correct.
Out of 365 days, it's not going to work more than 150, 160, 180 days. That's the kind of occupancy these places will have.
In this business, how your economy works, so there are properties which are seasonal, and like you said, I want to understand kitna expense aapke upar aata hai. So electricity is one thing that you take care, gas and all of other stuff. So these are expense which is there on you, and then there is a time that you generate money. Is there a lot of money which is getting made in this business, or is it that mass can only, if you have too many properties, then only you can generate? So anyone who's starting this business having 4, 5, 6 unit, 10 unit can see a lot of revenue profit, or they have to scale to see the revenue profit?
See, I would say everything is measurable based on how much input you bring into the table. So if I would say you can make money on 5 properties also, you know, because the requirements for a 5 property set is different.
Correct.
The requirement for a 25 property set is very different. You have to have a full-fledged marketing team. You have to have a full-fledged operations team, a general manager managing the operations team. You know, so the costs related to that, relative costs, keep on going up. But in a micro model, I would say it's a venture. If you are able to identify the property correctly, if you are able to bring in that kind of a customer, and if you are able to give that kind of a customer satisfaction, then it works. The major cost factor is the manpower cost.
Comparison to any other segment of hospitality, when we talk about small resort to running a hotel, smaller hotel, cost of manpower is pretty low when it comes to running units on Airbnb.
It works from place to place. It's not that it's very low. Because see, if you do a experience-based property, so let us understand, if you do a property in Uttarakhand, which is 3 to 4 bedrooms, you will have to have minimum 2 people who are going to be looking after the property full time. Then you would have to have a cook.
Of course, because
to be खाना बनाता है. अब 365 days में से सैलरी तो उसको सारा टाइम जाना है.
100%.
Right? और occupancy सारा टाइम होना नहीं.
Correct.
Right? So these kind of things, the cost heavy factors आ जाते हैं. So अगर वही आप multiple units पे जाते हैं, if you set up say 10 units, then management of that 10 units, the upper layer gets built up.
Correct.
ठीक है ना, आपका एक मैन फ्राइडे आपको चाहिए जो आपके इलेक्ट्रिकल प्लम्बिंग ये सब चीजों को हैंडल कर रहा है. So all those kind of things, so layers बनता जाता है. So the business always has that kind of a format.
But if someone plans in a way that there is a seasonal property and then there is a city property, which will,
so if you can balance it out, if you can balance it out.
एक बड़ा अच्छा मुझे लगता है कि this is not possible around it, but Instagram पे अगर आप जाओगे ना तो इंटरनेशनल बड़ा एक रील है जो कि बहुत वायरल होता है, that Airbnb शुरू करके लोग बिलियंस कमा रहे हैं. Is that true for India as well?
No, it is not.
Okay.
It is not. So people,
आपने देखी है रील्स?
I know. There are so many, you know, videos that come in that, you know,
I've started the Airbnb and G-Wagon है मेरे पास.
आजकल trend उल्टा हो गया. So if you go on YouTube, you will see that, you know, there are so many videos trending that Airbnb is not a good model. You know, it's a bogus model. ये वो. See, anything which is done with right planning, right conceptualization, and right management and right operational format, that is the thing which will work.
Okay.
So, and you can't make overnight money. You can't.
वो कहीं भी नहीं होता unless you do a wrong read.
See, money makes money is a concept. Investments may, you make a lot of money because those investments grow. There are sometimes certain peaks that come in, but in a service format, like a running format, you can't make overnight, you know. And it's very easy said that, you know, Airbnb is a model जिसके अंदर से ऐसे billions आ जाते हैं या something like that. Sometimes it's very difficult. What if you don't get occupancy?
Of course.
What if you're not able to justify your customer, not satisfy your customer? So एक बारी वो downturn शुरू होगा, वो problem आएगा, right?
If I am running a service apartment and you are also running a service apartment, what makes you that people choose you? I understand. So if I'm a first time person scrolling around and I land up to your page, what are the things that you have done जिसकी वजह से ये आपके पास booking आएगी?
So I'll use 2-3 examples as a thing. So in any industry, whether it's hospitality, whether it's Uber also, every industry, the most important thing is the guest experiences that people are able to understand. So
Correct.
Every property, so the first thing that matches or catches the eye of a person who's going through so if you go through a sheet which has 10 properties, so first thing that should appeal to you is the first image that comes in mind. So that is the most important thing. It can be of
Picture,
a picture, the first thing. Now that picture and what is shown in that picture.
What are you looking at?
What are you looking at? It could be a bed.
Yes.
It could be a living room. It could be a experience. It can be a swimming pool. It could be anything. So that's something that you need to be able to plan right, that this is the thing that our customer will get attracted to and why, right? So that's something which is very, very important, I feel, that is to be done in the first go. Then reviews make a lot of difference because it gives confidence to the people. Okay, you know, these are things that people are talking about, right? So that's something very, very important, which is, I feel, a great model that Airbnb has worked on. Then comes, you know, so your right price point, your right amenities, the right description.
Correct.
I feel today's traveler is, you know, getting more. Initially, we used to feel that people don't read. Now we feel that people read. They want to know about the property that they're renting. They want to understand about the property. They want to understand deeply about the property because they feel that they're going to spend a couple of nights over there. So whether it meets their expectations or not. So those are the kind of things, I think, you know, which are important.
I think you said it in a very casual way, but this is very deep to understand that how much difference does these things make. So I'll give you an example on this. So look at Leela Kovalam or Leela Goa pictures on Make My Trip. The picture is aerial shot, which shows a lot of villas around and बहुत सारी greenery and then a beach. If you look at any city property, उसमें बाहर facade का photo होगा कि कितनी glorious property दिखती है, because this is the age and era जहाँ पे social media चलता है.
Correct.
And then if you go to a boutique hotel छोटा, तो आपको aesthetic room दिखेगी photo.
Correct.
Because this is what you are looking at. So if I'm going to Goa, I would like to have a balcony and a bed in a single photo to see what I can see from balcony, because I am not going to get just to utilize the room because I am going to a place. So आपकी अगर property उत्तराखंड में है, so more important is property है कहाँ rather than क्या कमरा है. But अगर ये property गुड़गांव में है, I am not worried about the view because I am not here for the view. I am worried about the amenities. I am worried about what kind of a bed. So सबसे बड़ा problem होता है, are you getting the standard bed or not? So मुझे नहीं पता कि bedding कितना बड़ा problem, but if I am booking a service apartment, for me to know on which bed I am going to get a sleep, क्योंकि अगर वो उसकी thickness, उसकी वो चीजें नहीं, so rather than I'll choose a hotel because वहाँ पे सब standard है. So standard maintain करना, आपने ये एक चीजें जो बनाई हैं अपने लिए, ये कितना part play करते हैं आपके conversion या repeat ratio को? बस मेरे लिए तो करा है ये.
See, because if we don't get into that, so for example, you know, especially second homes में ये problem आती है, where mattress square का है तो square का रहने दो.
हाँ.
Right. So that's the concept which people come from, but it needs to be able to it needs to be changed because it needs to be matching the consumer's
Exactly. So
requirement.
you put money on that?
Yes.
Oh.
So we have to bring that onto the thing because it has to be able to justify to our customer.
And these are the reason that you gave credit to जिसकी वजह से आप scale कर पा रहे हो.
Correct. Because if you are not able to satisfy your customer, if you're not able to, bring that standardization, bring that, okay, how many, what kind of towels, what kind of linen. So all that investment is done by us. Linen, towels, these are perishable items. They keep on changing. For example, if let us understand, if you don't do that, अब वो चद्दर पे stain लग गया जी, उसी को चला लो. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understood.
That can't work. It has to go. It has to get into rotation. It should look nice. It should appeal.
Did you involve the tech as well in this entire business?
So we are trying to work on involving tech because so there's when there is the alternative accommodation, it has a lot of pain points as well.
Correct.
Now, for example, if you have multiple locations, then you have a lot of team management that goes into it. You want to have every corner of the property. You're not sitting at that property. If you're sitting at that property, then things are different. If you're not sitting at that property, how do you manage? How do you know what is happening at that property?
Correct.
Right. So there is a lot of movement of photographs. There's a lot of video calling. There's a lot of things to understand about the property. This is a problem. This is the issue. This is how it is looking. This is how it is set up before pre-check-in. This is how it is, ready for the guest. This is what we are going to do for the guest. So there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of data exchange. There's a lot of, okay, which person is reaching where, how, what. There's a lot of data exchange that happens. So currently we've not been able to. So this is something, I feel that, tech can really help in.
Outside India, there's a lot of people who are relying on tech when they are running Airbnbs because चाहे वो automatic keys हो, to get into the properties or asking for laundry service or anything of that sort. Do you think India is going to become, or this entire business is going to get tech involved everywhere?
See, I feel, okay, let's go one by one on the point. I feel in terms of, so let us understand the smart lock system.
Okay.
Now, smart lock works very well in places where there is an automatic check-in format. Like, for example, if you want to do it in a serviced apartment, it works very well.
Okay.
It is, if you want to do it in an experiential property, then it doesn't, it is not required because the check-in is through a person.
Of course, there's a guard which is going to sit on, if it has a farmhouse or something.
There is a person who will be sitting there. There's a person who will be waiting. So tech, but it helps in a lot of ways. So not only that, I think the tech, if it is built around, creating ease for the customer, like as you said, be able to bring the washing machine or bring the laundry. When I say customer, it can be an operator, it can be a person who's operating the place, it can be for anyone. These are all logistics which need to be brought down to the tech system. So today, for example, we don't order anything. We order everything on Blinkit.
Yeah.
We never go to the market.
Of course.
Sitting in the house, we never go to the market.
Yeah.
Now, this enablement we've reached in terms of our daily life routine.
Correct.
If we are able to bring such kind of a thing to our customer as well and plug it into our system, it works brilliantly.
I think when you talk about Blinkit, this is the convenience level that every human now can access.
Yes.
And this is for mass. And ye expectation here. And with Gen Z around, the new generation which is around, there's less amount of patience that they have. Today, I feel one thing which is missing in service apartment domain is that you cannot pick up a call and get your problem fixed if you are living here. So one tech that I feel is very important for any company to excel, scale in this domain is how quickly you can address the person, a guest that you're hosting on a platform. So today I can understand that there has to be something of that sort, probably your app, probably some kind of equipment or hardware or software that you build, that I press a button and say that I am facing this issue. And I should be aware that I can get a resolution to this. Other than this, what happens is sometime, I'll tell you, I was in a service apartment, there was not, electric kettle was not working. And I knew it is 1 in midnight. I knew no one is going to listen. I knew this for sure. So I have to wait till the morning, 10 o'clock, that I call someone to change it. And I knew for sure that इसका replacement होगा नहीं. Because probably owner ने inventory नहीं रखी होगी या कुछ भी है. So I complained. I said, this is supposed to be changed. And I was staying for 2 or 3 nights there. वो replacement आया नहीं. या तो आप सुनो नहीं and you say straight away no. But the problem is that they will say, okay, let me look into it. And when you say, let me look into it, people expect something to happen. And then nothing happens. And this is where I think you as an hostie, a brand is required to run in a service apartment division. I am sure that you are running through a lot of corporate office, people sitting to solve a lot of issues. But I think there is a change required in this domain. Hotels have reached there already. Yes. But this domain is still requires all of this convenience to be there. Right. Are you working on this already?
Yes, we are working. We're working on this because these are things that happen. It is something that is bound to happen.
Yes.
It is not, if it doesn't happen at a wee hour, then there can be if you have to just call someone, let us say you have a person that you have to call. What if that person is not answering the phone?
Correct.
What if that person is busy into something else, right? Your problem is not attended.
Correct.
You are also there for work or for whatever.
Correct.
And you forget about it. Then you face the problem again.
Correct.
Right. So that kind of a thing, it very much requires the communication. It requires the system to be able to resolve that as quick as possible. I understand that every time, everywhere, it is just not feasible that everything can happen.
Yes.
But there are certain things. Maybe you can set up benchmarks that, okay, these are the points that I need to be able to achieve, then go to the next level.
Correct.
Right. Correct. So I should have these many spares, right? Yeah. Hotels normally have a larger setup. Exactly. So they will work on a spare system. Normally in a house, you would not have a spare system.
Exactly.
There's a bulb going bad. You won't have. The biggest problem we face is in summers is the air conditioning issues.
Not working, yeah.
The biggest problem in winters is the geyser element going bad.
Yeah.
So you won't have a spare element kept in your house.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So these are things that require that immediate attention.
Correct.
Pressure pump going bad.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, first is that communication format. So right now we're not using tech. We've not built a app for us as of yet. We're using WhatsApp as a communication model. So every guest that comes in, we create a group with the guest with 2-3 people, so that everyone is aware. If one person's not answering, the other one is there to be able to address that issue, and the issue being brought to the right person becomes very, very important.
I think you have said it right, that there has to be a level. It happens with all the tech company as well. So if you're using a software, using a computer, they will know, is it a hardware problem? Is it a glitch? Is it an error? And then they can have different set of people working on that. All that is required is someone to listen.
Correct.
And act on it. You fix it, you don't fix it is a different case. But if someone knows that there's someone who can hear and help us, that's solved a lot of purpose when it comes to, because the expectation is such. If I'm in a service apartment, I'm not expecting a service of a hotel. That is for sure. But at least I'm expecting a service.
Correct.
That's something which is right now I think is missing. So tell me, if you look at Hosty today, and let's scale it up, what India is growing today, what is GDP growth is there. People are building a lot of use case for service apartment and villas, whether it is Saturday party or people like me who are traveling for work and staying in apartments. What do you see the future lies for service apartment and these, what we call as special lodging?
So I feel, the alternative accommodation or special lodging is we have a huge deficit of hotel rooms.
Yeah, rooms are, of course.
We all know.
Of course.
There is so much of movement of people. People don't like sitting at one place. There's so much of movement that happens. We have a huge shortage. Now, alternative accommodation, right kind, solves that problem brilliantly. It had always been there in a scattered way. In a very, very scattered way. It was more prominent in places like Europe.
Correct.
It was not known in countries like India that much. Maybe a little few in the south, but not.
But we are growing faster.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Now, because there is, if we are able to bring in that right kind of quality and that right kind of customer satisfaction, that sector will keep on scaling up. There is a huge demand.
Correct.
There is a very big shortage of supply. Right. You might hear from people that, okay, यहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है, saturation हो गया है. That is a real estate, factor again.
Correct.
Demand supply.
Exactly.
वो उसी के ऊपर work करता है. Like for example, today, गुड़गांव में इतना rental market बढ़ गया है. Like as of today, that short term probably sense नहीं बनता है, उल्टा हो गया.
हाँ, नहीं बनता. So for Mumbai as well, you see the ADRs of the hotels are so high. They are doing upwards of 80% occupancy, and it is difficult to acquire land. Yes. Build a hotel. आपको लैंड मिल जाए बड़ी बात है. उसके बाद आप उसके ऊपर 100 करोड़ से ऊपर पैसा लगा के 5-star होटल बनाओ, and then you have to wait for 10-15 years to actually, even if the ADRs are high, the investment cost is so much.
So much. It takes a lot of time.
So where is your next target areas for the service apartment, or to take the company scale? Which are your target areas? What are the cities or tiers that you are targeting?
See, currently we feel there is a huge gap still that exists in Delhi, Gurgaon and Noida.
Okay, this is metro
cities. This is metro cities. So we ourselves are focused here. Because first is where your home places.
Right? Yeah, basically the brand base.
The brand base. Now there's a huge gap which exists here itself. So we are trying to, scale up more in this gap itself. Now, on the product side, we've been working on very different dimensions of product. So from as low as 2,000 rupees a room ARR to as high as 20,000 rupees ARR. So we've been working on a product which is like a dimension, right? So it gives a different requirement. Every you have the ethics of the company very clear, but you have a different product for everyone. Correct. Everyone's pocket.
Correct.
Right, but the delivery is pretty much the same.
Yeah, the standard is same.
The expectation is the same.
Correct.
So across product. So we've been working more on this in the metro cities here. We currently have not thought of other cities like what do you call Pune and
Hyderabad, Mumbai, Chennai, all the other metro cities.
Other metro cities, we have not currently thought about them. We are working on Bangalore though. Bangalore is a market we feel very high corporate demand.
Of course.
See, so Gurgaon, Delhi, NCR, how our service departments work? Primarily, they work on three kinds of customers. One is corporate, which is coming for business. Second is medical traveler, very, very important traveler.
Correct.
Needs a lot of care.
Correct.
And the kind of medical travelers that we cater to are the recovering travelers. Like, so for example, if you've gone through cancer rehabilitation, you will have a longer gestation. You have to stay for a couple of months.
Correct.
And there's a lot of emotion that goes into handling a customer like that. Right? It's not a customer who's going through a medical treatment. You are going through a medical treatment, but you don't need to be to the hospital, or you're not admitted to the hospital.
Correct.
You are required to be visiting the hospital every few days. Right? And you need homely environment, you need all those kind of things. So these are the principal, parameters how service departments we feel should get the demand from. We feel Chennai is a very good market for medical travel. Chennai is a good market for corporate travel as well.
Correct.
Bangalore is a different market. Hyderabad is a very high-tech market again.
Correct.
So, but we are focusing on a multi-product format. So we are working on service departments, we're working on the experience formats like our Uttarakhand model, our Himachal properties, which we are doing. We recently started Goa in terms of, Goa is a tourism capital, so people travel. Even though, my perception of Goa was very different pre-COVID, and how it changed post-COVID was very different, because pre-COVID, Goa was like predominantly a place where, expats used to come. It was not a very expensive destination. Now Goa has become a super expensive destination, because, every villa has become like 50,000-60,000 rupees. We felt the affordability, changed post-COVID. So that's, every market has a different scape. Every market has a different level.
What is the product that sells most when it comes to Delhi, Gurgaon? So is it studio, 1 BHK, 2, 3, or experience? Which is your highest selling product in this market?
So 2 BHK.
2 BHK is the highest selling.
Selling, yes.
And you think that it should be the case for other metro cities as well?
I feel 2 BHK has an advantage over a studio or a 1 BHK.
Exactly.
It gives the space, it gives the freedom.
Correct.
So I
and
feel
also find the purpose when people travel in group and then के 4 लोग एक साथ रह सकते हैं.
4 लोग एक साथ रह सकते हैं, 2 अलग-अलग लोग एक साथ रह सकते हैं. You have a common living area. So I feel that 2 BHK is the best moving inventory. 3 BHK different है, 4 BHK purpose different है.
Do you also look at small multi-story buildings? So I have a client in Bangalore that we work with on revenue management. So I have seen this concept in Gurgaon and in Bangalore as well. So 3-story, 4 stories building with studio apartments.
Yes.
There are someone who will come and lease the entire building for maybe 5 lakh, 6 lakh rupees a month, or depending on the area and size. And that people treat it as a hotel oblique service apartment. So expectations are not very high for that property at a hotel level, but of course they deliver hotel level service, which is 24/7 housekeeping, or you can give them the IRD services because you have a small pantry. Do you think that this model will also become a hosting model, or something that you will incorporate in later stage?
We would like to. We would like to, because we understand what is a requirement of a customer when he's coming for a service department or a studio department. So that we would want to do, that we eventually take up the building and manage the whole place. So that's something that we would want to do.
Because I've seen a lot of player has came into this space. Why? Because I tell you, staying in a hotel is one thing that becomes expensive. One, because in the metro cities, ATR of a 4-star hotel rise somewhere around upwards of 5,000 rupees.
Yes.
Whereas you get a smaller size, because again space is the key in the metro cities. So you talk about Mumbai, you will get 150 square feet of room, and you know that what amount of price that you are going to pay if it is Ramada, Fairfield, or anything of that sort. But जहाँ तक in buildings की बात आती है, fair amount of room size. I've stayed in Gurgaon in such a property. Fair amount of room size. You get the services as well, and you get the apartment feel also. But this is whole building. You pay half the price of hotel, but get more space, get more convenience, and also location is also prime that you get, because these are small residential block. So having a unit, different unit, but having a building is, I think, is going to become prominent for people, because then it gives a hotel environment and you can have your own space. So this is something that I also look at as a future.
Yes.
And are you also planning into that direction as well?
We are planning into that kind of a direction, but see, every place has a different set of rules which govern the development of a particular asset, right? So I'll give you an example. Like, we have a property where we designed 2 BHKs on one floor of a building. Okay. Now this is a very customized model. It's very different. It's built differently. The rules, the society, the building bylaws of the place, of those things. So there are many factors that come into play. But I feel that yes, there is a huge requirement of being able to build these kind of multi-units, or a full tower unit, which works for people, works as a complex of studio apartment, complex of 2 BHK apartments, I would say.
And managing this has become easier, because then you have all maintenance staff.
There are a lot of properties which are coming up now, which are studio apartment buildings.
Yes.
But they're more majorly all focused on studio apartments.
Yes.
Right.
This is alternative of a hotel, basically.
Yes.
On a cheaper level.
Yes.
Right.
But I feel, the right inventory is always to 2 BHK, because it gives a better space. It gives
no, you are more onto the experience part. That this is if you're having a 2 BHK apartment with all the amenities and things that makes you feel home. That is something which is experience part. When come to the buildings that we are talking about, it is more to do with occupancy like hotels, and also having a lower maintenance level, because you will have staff that can take care of all of
the
this.
Entire place. Yes.
So I think this is alternate hotel model that can start incorporating into the companies like yours.
Yeah.
Do you see a competition coming soon in this space as well, like you have started? There are other players as well, but I'm talking about India level. There is no company around at level. So we don't count Stay Vista into a company which handle all of this because they're more of generating revenue than managing it. So although they manage pretty okay and pretty, there are a lot of property that they manage. But do you think that competition is going to come into this space as well?
See, I feel that there is going to be a lot of competition. There are a lot of international players also, eyeing at places like eyeing at this. They already established.
They're already there. So
They're already
Leela has came into residences, Hat has came into residences, Marriott has came into residences.
Ascot Suites are there. So there are so many companies which are doing residences, and it's going to pose more of a challenge for doing exactly what you can deliver. However, I feel where there is competition, there is a scope to learn. There is a scope to understand. You have a product. No one is going to take that away from you.
Correct.
Right. You have a building. No one's going to take that away from you. But you will be able to learn from your competition. How can you match that competition? How can you deliver a better value to that competition? So maybe if you're competing with Marriott, for example, you know exactly what are you giving extra than the Marriott would. Of course, Marriott would have that brand value, which you can't bring in.
Yes.
You have a different concept.
You take 100 years to beat.
Correct. So which you can't. But then there would be a trade-off to that brand value. There would be an extra thing that you will be giving in. And maybe it's a price benefit that you're talking about. Maybe it's a personalized benefit that you're talking about. Maybe it's a welcoming thought, or maybe it's a, hospitality level of experience.
And sometimes even a product.
Even a product.
Yeah.
It would be very different.
And how you deal with the safety and security? कोई incidents कभी ऐसा हुआ that something has gone completely wrong in any of your apartment?
See, there are issues when you host so many people. So we have so many room nights that we have continuously booked for so many nights in so many properties. There are things that can go wrong, and every time a thing goes wrong, you learn from that experience, and you envisage, you think. So for an entrepreneur, I think it becomes very, very important that ऐसा कुछ ना हो कि जिससे that scare feeling really
exactly
doesn't let you sleep.
Does it require any so if you want to run a service apartment or a condo or a villa, do you take any permissions? Because there are some societies that will allow you to have a guest, some will not. So is there anything precautionary that you also do in terms of making safety and security of the society and the building as well?
See, it is very important that remember, every time your neighbor would know what are you doing. Right. So unfortunately, from the government side, there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of, policy issues that are there in this particular alternative accommodation format. Yes. I have been personally discussing with Airbnb for 5-6 years that, their public policy team should be, because, the government has gray areas in this. There's licensing. Okay, there's a homestay license in place. Very rare. I mean, there's a big process to get it.
Okay.
So there's a gray area that exists, which government needs to work on to be able to give clarity. Your neighbor's safety is very important.
Yes.
So if you're going to have a place which is going to be compromising the safety of your neighbor,
correct,
then you will always not be allowed to run that. B, it is not ethical to do something like that.
Of course. Right. Because it's a residential area, there are other people who are living with the family.
Yes.
And kids.
So as long as you're able to achieve that, you're able to, communicate, you're able to convince, then I feel you're able to manage. And you also need to set up your systems correct so that, you have that safety controls in a place. For example, in a serviced apartment building, if you see at night, there is a big music party which is happening, which are the concerns, right? Correct. That's going to be disturbing to the neighbors. Those are things that you need to
So you plan the house rules as well?
Yes, we have to. Every particular place we have to plan the house rules. What is it that a guest, what is expected out of a guest?
What is the expectation of the property as well? So आप यहाँ पे नहीं अलाउ करोगे, पर मेरे को आप एक फार्म हाउस दोगे तो वहाँ तो पार्टी करने, वहाँ तो आप जोर से बजाओ म्यूजिक,
वहाँ आप जोर से नहीं, बट वहाँ पर भी नॉर्म्स है. Like for example, Delhi has a norm that after 10:30 you can't play.
Correct.
Right. So you can't change that norm. You will have the cops.
Of course.
They will come. Now, we don't want to get into that kind of a situation. They can, you don't want to get into. You are there at a property to enjoy. You're not there at a property to be answerable to a cop if he comes because of music, that how much alcohol are you carrying, what is the thing that you're doing,
Correct.
what is your
Correct.
age.
Correct.
There are a lot of things that go into this. But however, I feel responsibility of a customer is also very important. Property needs to set up rules which are there, and the customer needs to respect the rules which are there. So if there is a property which has a music restriction at 10:30, there is an alternative to that you play it inside, which it does in a farmhouse which is 2 acres. If you play music inside, it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
You can party there at the same time
for whole night, no
for
issues.
whole night. But instead of partying outside, you can move into a room which is made for that.
Correct. So thank you so much for all of these details. So one last question that I will ask, and then we'll end the show. Do you think that there are going to be more players, like we discussed, that of course there's going to be a branded competition which is going to come in? With this podcast and all the series that I do, we encourage a lot of people who are willing to come into hospitality, do business, or probably take a professional path in hospitality. I want few things to know from you, and the message that you can go send out to people who are trying to build a business here. And this has become something which a lot of people want to do, entrepreneurship in hospitality. And जब मैं नौकरी कर रहा था, hospitality में था, मुझे hospitality में business समझ नहीं आता था. It was high asset value that if you have, then only you can come into hospitality. आप 100 करोड़ का होटल बनाओ, married को दो और पैसे कमाओ.
Correct.
और इसके अलावा hospitality business, but I own a hospitality business based on service. You own a hospitality business which is into another domain altogether, which is alternate lodging. So if someone today wants to try hands into this segment, what are the things that he should be keeping in check before getting into this business?
See, first of all, I feel there is a huge scope into this business, because there is a huge requirement, there's a huge demand of good quality, good experience, good level of service. So I feel there is a huge scope that exists, that it needs more entrepreneurs to be able to handle this kind of a setup and be able to deliver the quality service that the customer is looking forward to. And in terms of planning, in terms of when you're starting a business, you have to be the biggest thing I feel is that money is okay. You should have the will, you should have the courage. Correct. You should have the dedication to be able to invest into that business. Correct. Because that is what it requires the most.
It's a risk that you take.
Yes, it's a risk that you take, and that requires a lot of dedication that goes into particular, you don't sleep for hours. Your motto becomes satisfaction. Correct. Right? So that's, I think, the commitment level, the thought process, the financial requirements are also there, depending on what kind of a scale that you need to get into, what is your acquisition cost, what is it that your team cost would be. But every new business in India has that kind of a requirement, right? So enthusiasm and a willingness or a choice. See, you're doing podcasts, I'm running a business which is into this thing. People run restaurants. Correct. There's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of passion. My reason, everyone, so there's so much money to be made in real estate. But I'm here because it's more of a passion-driven thought process. I like when a customer goes satisfied. I like when a customer appreciates that, oh my God, I had a fantastic, stay at your place. So that inspiration, if it goes into, that is what, if it drives you, then I think it's a great place that you can work.
But शुरू करके जो रील्स की तरह होता है, मिलियंस नहीं बनेंगे, मेहनत करनी
नहीं, वो मेहनत करने से, मेहनत के बिना तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you for your time and details that you gave in for the business. I think this is going to help a lot of people, and we might catch up someday when Hosty grows to 100 unit, and we will sit down and have another chat that how you did that. Thank you so much, Akshay.
Thank you.
You are watching biggest hospitality podcast by a hotelier. Stay tuned. Follow us for more.